Everyone, wanted to make this video on how to counter bone plating optimally while playing Fizz. As any high elo Fizz player should know, most opponents are there are a number of matchups where the opponent can just spec into bone plating, kind of for free, and it really makes the matchup really hard. Notable ones are like Victor, Galio. And one of the key parts of playing these matchups is figuring out how can we get rid of the bone plating for the least risk possible, right? Because we have no poke, we basically need to commit into melee range every time we want to poke out the bone plating. But if we have to commit a rotation of spells of queuing in and autoing with an extended W and then Eing out because of the range, that's not ideal, right? But maybe there's a way for us to get rid of the bone plating, without these very extended ones where we just go in for a little poke of auto, or we do an entire heavy trade, of an electrocute, and we sacrifice like 90 damage a combo, which is, really, really bad for our damage, right? So the idea is to use the damage over time of W as you're running away to proc it, because the damage over time is going to proc bone plating, but you've already done all your damage, and now your electrocute has either gone off and you don't have to worry about it. So it becomes down to a question of when to time your all in, as opposed to when can I proc bone plating, right? So it becomes a much simpler task. And I'll show you an example of it here. So here in this matchup, I'm playing Fizz at Diamond 3, Diamond 4 elo versus a Cassadin. I use a high value E to proc the first bone plating. I don't go for electrocute proc, even though I do slow him. He wastes his Q here, so I feel like I can step up here. He's looking for minions. I look for auto E auto. He doesn't have bone plating, and now he's already at half HP, right? And so I proc the electrocute. It's important to note I proc the electrocute at around 20 seconds of his bone plating cooldown. This is important because if you do it any later at like 35 seconds, where it's kind of like at this angle, then your electrocute won't be up in time for before his bone plating is up, right? His bone plating is going to be up before your electrocute is up. So ideally you want to trade before like 30 seconds, I would say, because bone plating's cooldown is 55 seconds and electrocutes is 25. So as long as you're trading before 30 seconds, or around like 25 seconds, you're going to be able to get another electrocute proc off. And we want to be able to trade, get another trade before his bone plating is up, right? Just to maximize electrocute value. So I was able to do the electrocute proc early. I just go in for another trade here, not because I have electrocute, but because I have the level 2 advantage, and I'm going to take that every day. And in this case, I'm looking, as I'm farming these minions, I'm looking at his bone plating, right? It's very close to being back up again. And the moment it's around, like it looks like it's about to come up, that's when I go in. So here, I'm still level 2, so I don't have Q. So I can't just proc it whenever I want here. But I walk up here knowing that he wants to get that minion, and I barely get in range for the extended auto from W. And you can see that his bone plating is basically exactly almost up, right? We procced it at around 135, and so it should be up within the next 2 seconds, right? We proc it, and bone plating procs at 230, exactly when it comes off cooldown. And it gets procced by the DOT, right? So I got my full W damage off, and if I had level 3 here, in like the rest of the lane, if I have level 3 here, I'm doing a Q auto W trade there, a E auto W trade there, queuing out. I'm getting a full trade in, and then on the back end, the bone plating procs, and it basically blocks nothing. So now it's like we don't have to worry about procking bone plating. It's just about when do I actually go in, right? And so now he's so low, his bone plating has basically done nothing. I think it doesn't show here, but I read it before, and it was like it's only blocked 20 damage. And so I just go for all in here. He flashes on optimally, which means I can save my flash. And if okay, worst case scenario, I put everything into every time I attack him, right? Like that first E, I could have gone for auto W, but then I lose like 90 damage, right? Yeah, and then if I go for the second electric bone plating, if I let that come through, that's another probably a 90 or 100 damage. So when we get to this situation where I've gone in and used my Q auto W, instead of being at 50 HP, he's probably at like 200, which means that honestly I might not even be able to kill him. But I definitely need another auto. And then with another auto, even with this unoptimal situation where he flashed this way instead of kind of backwards from where I queued from to maximize the distance, I would still have to flash probably, because I would have to auto him again to get rid of all that damage that bone plating covered up, and then flash out of turret range. That is in the worst case scenario. If I had gone for another situation, where I just poke it out, with W, he would have 30 more HP. And so, I think he still dies there, but, in that case, against other opponents, it might make a big difference. And I think versus other opponents early game, this is definitely a lot harder to execute. I originally thought of this because of Victor. I think he's very annoying to face, especially with bone plating. Every time you go in, it feels like he has his shield, and you can't really do anything against him. So I haven't really had the chance to test this framework against him. But if you guys have any experience with doing that, let me know. But I hope this helps. Thanks.